Welcome to our new show here on the Big Apple Hockey Network, the L-Roc and Dermo Show. This is my friend Ryan Dermody. For you who don't know him, welcome
What's
him to
up,
the
guys?
Big Apple family. But this show, unlike our main show here, we're going to do predominantly just Islander talk. As you know, Marc wanted to get some more Islander coverage here on the station. So here we are. Dermo, just like me, knows a shit ton about the Islanders, so I couldn't think of a better partner to do it with. But welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Tony.
So here we are. All-Star break. Islanders are on their bye week as of right now. Fourth in the Metro, 4 points behind Philly for that third spot. So, just what are your thoughts on where they stand right now, and if they can kind of make a little bit of a push here once they return to play against the Maple Leafs after the break.
I think the Flyers losing Carter Hart probably for the rest of the eternity probably will help the Islanders for the
Yeah,
rest of the season. Uh,
yeah,
I mean, they don't have a goalie now, and uh, someone told me the other day that these contracts are not going to be taken off the cap because if these guys end up getting suspended, these contracts are going to count against the cap for them. So
yeah.
some of
Yes,
these
they
teams
are.
are going to have issues with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think they're gonna be stuck with those. I mean, remains what happens to them remains to be seen. But that's a good point. The Flyers are going to be without Carter Hart. They've lost 5 in a row. So when you look at the playoff race here, I think the Islanders' path to the playoffs goes through the Metro with that third spot. 5 points
Yeah.
behind the Red Wings for a wild card spot. So I think.
I lost you for a
You know,
second. What'd you say? I
it's
lost you for a second.
I think. Yeah, I think the third spot in the Metro is where the Islanders
Yeah.
really have the best
Yeah.
shot at. The Red Wings, the Lightning, the Maple Leafs, that teams are kind of going back and forth between third and the Atlantic and the wild card spots. They're all winning games right now, so I think the Flyers are to be had for sure. Which is why I think Lou Lamoriello is going to be on the verge here of making another move at some point. That's just my feeling. I don't think he's going to sit back and just kind of punt the season away. That's not really who he is.
Yeah, I just think, like we've talked about this. I think, obviously the cap is an issue for them. Um, I just think they're at a point where, they wanted to institute more defense again. That's why they brought Patty Wallen. I just don't know if like we've talked about with like, you're going to have to trade like a big contract to bring in a big contract if they want to get younger. So it's like, all right, do you
Yeah,
want to trade Pajot? But Pajot is a good asset for them because he plays that third line center. He's on there. The top line he goes against the
yeah,
top line. But it's like you want to pay $5 million to a center where you could probably put Zizekas in that spot for half that, and then put McLean in the fourth spot. I don't know. So, I mean, I've talked to you about getting Elias Lindholm. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I don't, obviously none of the insiders have linked the Islanders to Elias Lindholm. I mean, that's partially one because no one knows what Lou Lamoriello is going to do, and two,
yep,
they're not like a contender. But I do think he would, in a perfect world, I do think he would have interest in Lindholm. I mean, he's a guy that could play center and the wing, which is so
yep,
versatile, which Lou likes. He's
yep.
a Selke caliber forward. He's very responsible defensively, so I think he checks all of Lou's boxes. Um, you know, the thing is, do they need another center? Sure, you can move him to the wing, but I think this time, because before they acquired Horvat, we were all like, Islanders need a scoring winger, scoring winger. They get Bo Horvat, they move
But
Barzell to the wing. It
but
worked.
L-Roc, they got that though because I told you this for a while. You need to put Barzell on the wing. He doesn't win
Yeah, no,
faceoffs.
that's
So it worked out. That
yeah.
was perfect. That was a perfect storm for them.
It absolutely has. I think this time though, I think he's probably going to be more inclined to actually get a true winger than trading for Lindholm. But I guess we'll see. Vladimir Tarasenko's name is out there. I don't think he'll cost very much.
Yeah.
Maybe a second or third round pick, and maybe like a lesser prospect. Frank Vetrano's another name out there. but with him, he's having a career year. But aside from that, though, this guy has scored over 20 goals a couple of times in his career. So I do think
Yeah.
he's a legitimate top six forward now. I just don't know
Well,
how
I mean,
much.
everyone's better than Pierre Engvall at top six. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'll put
Oh
anybody in that
man,
spot. So
that's true. That is certainly true. And he's hurt the Islanders. They relied on him to be a top six forward, playing with Nelson and Palmieri, put up points. And I got to tell you, he looks nothing like the forward he did when they traded for him at the before the deadline last year.
yep.
He's not the same
But
player. So
I will say one thing, and I don't blame Lou for this, but I kind of like shame on you a little because you just signed this guy for 7 years at $3 million a season, and you put him in a top six role. So you're
yeah,
kind of being cheap about it as it is. Where if you just put him on the third line, I don't think we'd really care as much. It kind of goes back to what I told you with Leo Komarov a few years ago. Like, yeah,
yeah,
all right, yeah, yes, I get it. Leo doesn't score any goals, but he brings so many other things to the table that it's like, all right, it's not the end of the world. He's making $3 million. Like, he makes everyone better around him. Like, so is Pierre Engvall, would it be an issue if he was the third line winger? Probably not. We probably wouldn't be talking about it because that's where he should be. He reminds me of like a Carl Hagelin. Like, he's a perfect third line guy. He's not a top six forward.
yeah. I don't have a problem with Engvall. You're right in that role. The thing is the years. I mean, what you could have got Engvall for like 3-4 years, it'd been much more palatable. But 7 years. I mean, now even though the cap hit's not very high, I don't think any team's going to touch a guy with 6 years left on his deal that's not producing anything. So
I think the only thing that goes. I think the only thing that
there.
goes in his favor is that he is only 27 years old. So he still
Yes,
is young.
he
He
doesn't
still
age
is
on his side.
6'5".
Yeah,
He is 6'5", L-Roc. So he's not like a kid.
yeah,
He's
he's
not a
big.
little guy.
Well,
Yeah.
he plays like he's small. He doesn't hit anybody. He doesn't hit anybody at all. He's soft. He's the
Yep.
definition of soft. But it is what it is. In a perfect world, though, to get back to the kind of the point here, if they could trade for a guy like Vetrano or Tarasenko, you move Engvall down to the third line, and now you have more balanced scoring. But that third line, though, they produce nothing at 5-on-5. Pajot and Holmstrom, they got good chemistry.
Yeah.
Shorthanded, they get opportunities. But 5-on-5, I mean, they really don't produce much. So that's an issue too. They need some more scoring on the third line.
Yes. But you know what? Like I said, maybe they're both fast. So maybe putting
Yes.
Engvall with them wouldn't be bad.
No, yeah,
I mean,
he certainly has the
you put
speed.
Wallstrom with them, and Wallstrom is just unbearable to watch at this point. Like, the guy is Jeff Tambellini. Like,
yeah,
he's got a shot.
You're right.
And
Yeah,
that's
good
it.
shot,
Like,
right? Yeah, great shot, and that's really about it. I
don't know if he's just the change of scenery guy that he needs, but like his skating is like he doesn't even know what he's doing out there. He's like all over the place.
Yeah.
It's
funny. I don't know. Are you able to see the comments on your phone from viewers? Can you see him?
I see. Yeah, Elsie's commenting. I see.
Yeah, LZ. Yeah. All right. I wasn't sure if you could see him when you're on your phone.
Yeah,
but
I can see it now.
So, yes, fucking guy. Yeah, you know what? I wonder if Wallstrom is gonna get a little bit of a look here from Waugh. He finally got into the game. Against the last game before the break here, and he picked up that assist on, oddly enough, Holmstrom's goal. I don't know if he did enough in Waugh's eyes to get a continued look here, but I think he's done with this team. I don't see a future here with him. I mean, he only signed a 1-year qualifier, so he's an RFA again at the end of the year. I don't know. I just don't see the Islanders re-signing him. My gut, Dermo, tells me that if Lou makes a trade between now and the deadline, he's in the deal. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if that happens.
Yeah,
and it's a shame though too, because when they drafted him, he was kind of said to be this guy that's going to come in and use his shot and be a 30-goal scorer, and it just hasn't happened yet.
It just shows you how good that league truly is.
Yeah. No,
he dominated juniors. Like, he had no issues there. He was pretty solid in D1 hockey. So it just, I mean,
I think it's the compete level. He needs to. I think he needs to be engaged at all moments, and it doesn't seem like he always is. I mean, he's not afraid to throw a hit. I'll say that, but he's just his mind away from the puck. It's just not where it needs to be for the NHL level, and I think that's something he needs to work on if he wants to have a long NHL career, and maybe it's with another team, but I see him as a good candidate to go at the deadline. Not that he
Yeah.
makes a lot of money at all. He makes $870,000, but when the Islanders make a trade, they're going to need salary to go out the other way. So I would imagine he'll be in any deal.
Yeah.
Would a team like Ottawa want him? In a move for Tarasenko? They're a younger team. They're tight against the cap. Would they have interest in him? I wouldn't see why not. Why not take a flyer on him for a team like the Senators?
Yeah, and at that point, you kind of just wash your hands of the situation anyway, because like, how long are we gonna do this? Like, it is what it is at this
You
point.
know, yeah,
It's like Beauvillier.
I
It's like Beauvillier. It's the same situation.
exactly. Yeah, at least Beauvillier had a little bit more success than Wallstrom, but yeah, similar players, young players, change of scenery. And listen, for Beauvillier, that change of scenery didn't work out. He started off hot in Vancouver after the trade, and he had all these Islander fans talking because he was hot and Horvat wasn't. They're like, oh, this trade, Beauvillier. Look at how Beauvillier is playing, and they're eating crow now because Beauvillier did
Oh
nothing
yeah.
this year. Got traded to Chicago. I believe he's hurt now, but still, he's
Yeah.
he's not going to have a career in Chicago. I don't think. I think he's
No,
a UFA this season anyway.
you're going to see him bounce around a lot,
Yeah.
But you're going to see teams like Tampa, Florida, Colorado that'll put him on their third or fourth line. That's what you're going to see for the rest of his career. It's going to be stuff like that. Because he's solid for what he is. It's just he's not a $4 or $5 million guy.
Not
but
anymore.
Teams will take flyers on him for $2 million. Like, that's going to happen.
Yeah, that will. I think honestly, the way he's played since he's been traded, I think he maybe even talking like a million and a half to kind of like a prove it deal. But so Brian says shouldn't Wally be on the block as well, and then he said he's late. But yes, I would imagine Wallstrom's on the block, and I also think a guy like Samuel Bolduc could be packaged in a deal too if they're going to be looking to make a move. He's still young.
That guy drives me nuts. That guy's 6'5", and like there's games where he plays well, and then it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, his passes. He turns the puck over way too much.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's still young. What is he, 20? What is he, 23, 22, 23? But, like, come on, man.
Yeah. So, L saying that...
and if he wasn't having such a promising... Like, he was good in the AHL, so it's like...
he was.
You can't transition anything.
He put up some really good offensive numbers in Bridgeport. I think it was like 2 years ago. But and I think they're maybe a little hesitant because you often hear the term about cliche that young defensemen take longer to develop. I mean, which is true. I mean, look at Noah Dobson, but I don't see it with this guy. I don't see it with Bolduc. He doesn't do like something well enough to the point where I could be like, all right, well, I think once he develops, he's going to be stellar in this area. I think he's subpar in every area of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. And also too, you got a lot of younger guys coming in the pipeline like Isaiah George.
But they're still a year or two away though.
They are. But I think there's guys that are going to in a year or two are going to be pushing for a spot and probably surpass him anyway. Similar what happened to Robin Salo. Robin Salo was at one time was pretty much at the top of the depth chart amongst defensemen, young defensemen, and he got surpassed by a bunch of guys. So I see the same thing.
Circle back to him at some point,
I mean, he let's put it this: Grant Hutton's been called up before him, so I don't know. I don't know what their feeling is on Robin Salo, but I don't know how much value he has. He'd be nothing more than like a throw-in in a trade, I think. But so Brian says, what about Ruslan Ishikov, who he's referring to? And I know you talked about him. I like him.
I like him.
I think he's got some skill. His size, he's smaller, but I think why not give him a shot? At this point, why not give him a shot and see what he can do?
He's not going to play center though. You can't have him at
probably
center.
not.
So you're going to have to put him at the right.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, if
You
let's
know.
say like his first game back from the break, Pajot went down, I think at that point maybe they would give him a shot, but I don't know if he's going to get the shot. Truthfully, there would have to be a rash of injuries for him, I think, to get called up at this point.
Yeah.
But I do think he's got some upside, and I also wonder too about him. If they are going to make a trade, or there are teams that are maybe intrigued enough by him that Lou would use him as a chip. I don't know, but
They don't have anybody left. They can't keep trading all these guys. There's nothing left. They have the
and
worst farm
that's
system in the league.
yeah, they were ranked just the other day. The Athletic did the organization rankings. They ranked 32nd, dead
Yeah.
last. But that's what happens when you trade your first round pick. What, 4 years in a row?
Yeah,
It's
but Tampa did the same
it's
thing, and Tampa has 2 cups. So what are we talking about?
yeah.
Like,
I mean that is true.
you know.
That I mean, if
Hey,
the
listen.
Islanders
You
would
know
have
what?
got
They every first round pick that Lou's traded, he's re-signed the guy. So
that is true. Yes. Yeah.
so they, listen, it's not like he's just throwing these picks away
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Garth Snow did.
Yeah,
So, and for the
yeah.
most
So that's
part,
why.
and the prospects they've thrown away, they really none of them have panned out. Even Ratu hasn't really done anything yet.
No, he hasn't. He's still been in the AHL.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that Lou, anybody he trades for, he's gonna re-sign. Like he's not a guy that trades for rentals. Like, so for
Yes.
instance, if he were shock everybody and traded for Elias Lindholm, he's re-signing him. He'll
Yeah.
figure it out. He's not gonna let him walk for nothing.
Yes.
Palmieri, Pajot, Horvat. Um, enough for nothing. Pajot and Horvat re-signed with the Islanders before they even played a game, too, with the
Yeah.
team. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that says something. That
Well, I
certainly
think there's
says something.
also somewhat backdoor deals with that. I don't think they're
Yeah,
you
the
know.
the extensions are pretty much agreed upon on the
Yeah.
trade. Yeah, or at least the framework of it is done.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, that
So,
Horvat
Michael,
deal, I like that deal since the beginning.
yeah,
The trade and the actual deal itself. Listen, he's a solid player. Is he going to score 40 goals? Probably not. But he brings so much to the table for that team. And
yeah.
I didn't
I
realize how
think
fast he was. He's pretty fast.
he is. Oh, he's got wheels. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is faster than I thought too. But this is a guy that's probably, I think he's on pace to score around like 33 goals. So you take that and run.
Yeah.
33 goals,
Yeah.
77 points, 78 points. I mean,
Yep.
that he's worth what he's getting paid at that price. So
Yes.
that
Yes.
was certainly look, that trade was certainly a win. So if Lou can pull something off here to of a similar effect, I think that would really help the team. And the question is forward or defense, because you talk about a lot of people that think they should trade for a defenseman. Polak, we haven't heard an update on him. He hasn't resumed skating. No one really knows what's
Yeah.
going on there. Obviously, Adam Pelech with the concussion, those concussions are tricky. He's day to day, but you don't exactly know when he's going to come back. If you remember last year, he missed 20 something games because of a concussion. So
Yeah.
you worry about that. So that brings you to the point: do they trade for a defenseman? Arthur Staple in the Athletic the other day, he had basically like one of those articles with a bunch of guys that the Islanders could be interested in, and he had Noah Hannafin at the top of the list. Steep
Yeah.
price
You
though.
like him.
Again,
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
first round pick. You're talking prospects. He's going to cost a lot. There are a lot of teams interested in him, and another UFA. So if that
You know how old he is? He's only like 26.
Yeah, he's not old. Yes,
He's
he's
young.
on the younger side. Yep.
And he's been
Um,
around a while.
Yeah, he has, because it's the guy that was drafted high, came in the league at 18 years old, so he's been around for a
Yep.
while now. Left shot defenseman. Do you make a move for him? I mean, when Pelech comes back, you're stacked on the left side. You have Hannafin, Pelech, and Romanov on the left side. That's pretty good depth. So I don't know. I don't know which way Lou's going to go. I think they certainly need another more depth on defense, but they also need more scoring. So I'm interested to see, the path that he takes here. But I think it comes down to they have to win games. Once the break's over, they have to beat
Yeah.
Toronto. The break,
Yeah.
they got to win some games here, and
Yep.
close the gap on Philly, and even close the gap on the wild card teams, Detroit, et cetera, Tampa Bay, because you don't want your only avenue for the playoffs being one path. You at least want to have the option of getting a wild card spot too. So they need to start winning some games, and I think if they get on a little bit of a streak here, I think he's certainly pulling the trigger. Probably soon too, because that's his
Yeah.
MO. Lou doesn't really wait until the day of. He usually does all his work ahead of the
Yeah.
deadline. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to see when he's gonna try to pull something off here.
Are you trading Pajot at the deadline?
I don't think Lou would do it. If
Do
they're
you think? All right, here's a question for you. Do you think that trading Pajot for Lindholm would be a good trade? And I'm not saying straight up, obviously it's not.
yeah,
But I'm trying to make it. I've showed you we've tried to make it work with the cap stuff on the cap friendly
friendly,
thing.
absolutely.
And I've said to you, this is Palmieri's last season here. They can't. He's going to be 34. He's got a $5 million cap hit. And if you plan on bringing in somebody else with a big contract, you got to move him, because you're not moving Lee. And
Well,
what are
probably
you going to
not,
do? Other than Lee, the only other person. So there's three guys I would think that he moves. I would say, Lee is obviously the last of the three of them. But the three contracts that are going to, would be Lee, Pajot, and does he do a wild card and throw Ryan Pulock somewhere? Because
So
it's because if you're going to get
none
Noah
of these,
Haviland, what are we doing?
I don't think any of. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to make any of those moves in season. I think
No. I'm not saying that, but well, maybe the Pajot one, because again, they have no cap space to make this work right now.
If that's if Ryan Pulock comes back soon. If he's out indefinitely, then they have some money to work with. Because remember, he's on LTIR right now, so technically they still have.
Yeah, so it doesn't count.
They still. I think they have $3.5 million to spend right now with Pulock and LTIR. Where they would get in trouble is if they make a trade and then Pulock comes back a week later, then they would have to scramble to move somebody. But to answer your question, Pajot, Lindholm, I mean, Calgary's. They're going to retool at some point. They do get another center back in the deal to replace Lindholm, but I think if the Islanders are in a playoff spot or close to it, the idea I think for Lou is to add to the team, not also send a player back the other way. So if you look at Lindholm's salary, he makes $4.
So just somehow make it work and then trade a contract in the offseason, like Letty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Calgary would have to retain 50% of Lindholm's contract to make it work.
Well, I'm sure they would. I don't think that would be the issue.
Yeah. So if the Flames were to retain 50%, you're talking Lindholm would be on the books for around roughly $2 million, which means if Brian Pulock never came back, let's say then they could make that move without having to do anything. But if Pulock comes back again, you're going to have to then trim some salary. So that's why in the deal, if Wallstrom and Bolduc went in the deal, they both make around 800 something. So that's $1.6 million going out.
Yeah.
So they would be able to make it work. But again, there's going to be a lot of teams interested in Lindholm. It's going to drive the price up. Boston, Colorado. You're starting to hear the Rangers have interest. So some of those teams have more pieces to offer. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
Boston,
I like Lindholm, but you were telling me that he wants $8 a year. He's not an $8 a year guy.
Yeah, he wants a Horvat type contract.
Yeah.
He's not putting up those offensive numbers to warrant that.
No,
though. This year he's not.
He's a solid 50, maybe 60 points on a good season. I don't know. Unless you plan on putting him with Horvat and Barzell, and then you're moving Lee down, then all right. Yeah. I mean, whoever you put with those two is going to get points.
Well, he's what 2 years removed from scoring close to 40 goals or close to 40 goals. So he can
but
put up
Matt
numbers.
Tkachuk, but Matt Tkachuk and Johnny Hockey were on his line.
Yeah. That's true. That was the best time in hockey. Yeah. I mean, I would love to have him.
I would try. I know this is crazy and it won't happen, but someone should take a flyer on Huberdeau. See if they would retain serious salary on him, because the poor guy stuck up in Calgary. Who wants to play up there?
That's interesting about Huberdeau. He's having another really bad year. Calgary, that's a horrendous contract. I would imagine they would move him if they could, but I think so many teams are scared. He's got 8 years, so he's got 7 years left on his deal after
on
this.
It's 10 per. It's 10 per.
Yeah, And the thing is, you could say to yourself, all right, fine. If Calgary retained 50%, we'll take him. Yeah, sure, because then it's only $5 million. But there's no way in hell Calgary's retaining 50% on the deal
No,
for the next 7 years. If it was 2
no.
years, year left, sure. But so that's why moving him, I don't think it's realistic at all. Even if I just don't see it. But
Yeah.
I mean, Els is saying he likes Monahan over Lindholm, and honestly, you compare the numbers. Monahan is having a better year.
Elsie's got a good point there.
Yeah.
Monahan's a bigger body.
Yes, he is.
If I'm not mistaken, he might be younger than Lindholm because he kind of just fell off out of nowhere. I'm telling you, I think Monahan might be a year or two younger.
He might.
And you know what? You'll probably have to spend half the assets on a Monahan right now than you would on Lindholm, and it'll get you the same.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Although it was Frank Seravalli said that Montreal is looking to get a first for him. So
didn't they give up a first for him or something?
They did. They
got a first with him or something, didn't they?
Taking him, yeah, for taking him. Oh. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
To Elz's point, I think Monahan's on the radar for the Rangers. I haven't heard anything about the Islanders being linked to Monahan, but I mean, I would take him. I just, I put him in the same boat as Adam Henrique, which again, on that list by Arthur Staple, he had Henrique on the list the Islanders could be interested in. And listen, it makes sense, right? Henrique, former Devil. We all know Lou loves his former Devils.
Yep.
He's familiar with them. So Adam Henrique could be what are your thoughts on Henrique as an option for the Islanders?
Yeah, but so he's another center. So what are we doing? So you're gonna put him on the third. You put him on the third line with Pajot and Holmstrom, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. He moves to the wing.
Right. That's gonna be a shutdown line, I'm assuming. So
yeah. And he's having a good year. I think I'd have to look it up, but I think off the top of my head, I think he has at least 15 goals, I believe.
Yeah. Well, he's also playing top line minutes in Anaheim, and there's nobody in Anaheim. So
yeah,
because Zegras is playing.
So Henrique has 15 goals, 32 points in 48 games.
It's not bad.
But he makes $5.8 million, so Anaheim would have to for sure retain at least 50% on that.
Yeah.
So Atlas is saying move Nelson to first line wing if you get Henrique. I don't. You know what?
Can you see what Henrique's winning percentage is, faceoff percentage is? I like that. That's a good. I like that because Nelson. I'll tell you what. I liked Nelson on the wing last year when he was with Lee and Barzell. It was an interesting concept.
I was just gonna say, I have always been intrigued about the thought of Nelson and Barzell together because you have Barzell, our best playmaker, and then you have Nelson, who's our best finisher. So you would think it makes sense, but I don't. I guess the way I look at it is why mess with a good thing, right? I mean, Nelson's playing the best career of his hockey at the age of over 30 last couple of years. Why move him from center? You know what I'm saying? He's I don't know if you tinker with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal should be for this team is, like you said, get another defenseman if you can, and then you got to get a second line winger. You have to,
I know
because Envol's is not moving the needle for me. What about I know this probably wouldn't happen, but like a Philip Forsberg, because he had issues with Trotz.
Yeah, I know you love
when Barry was the coach there.
But...
and I'm not saying Barry's got an issue with him now, but maybe I don't know. I'm just trying to think outside the box because that's usually what happens with this team.
So I mean, Forsberg. I think it was as early. I think it was this past summer that Trotz had said there's 3 players on Nashville that he's not moving. Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg, and I think the other was Saros. But since there's been some chatter on Saros, but I don't know. Forsberg they just re-signed him. What was it last year? He decided not to hit free agency, extended there. I don't think they would move him. I'd love him, but I don't think he's on the market.
But that was also before Trotz came in too, though.
as for other guys not on the market, one of our viewers that always watches our main show, State of Survival, said he should trade the house for Brady Tkachuk. Brady
We don't
Tkachuk's
have a
not
house to trade
available.
for him.
Yeah,
We have a motorhome. Sorry.
Ottawa is. I can show you. There are a couple guys on Ottawa. Brady Tkachuk, one of them, that they're not moving for anything. But
No way.
I mean, obviously he'd be
No way.
perfect.
It would have to trade Dobson. You'd have to move like Dobson and something else, probably.
Yeah.
No way. And that would
He
just
also
defeat the whole
says,
purpose.
and just made a comment on this, which I've heard a lot. We need to trade Nelson now. He will start to regress. He's worth top dollar. Yes. Listen, if the Islanders put Brock Nelson on the market right now, teams would line up. They would line up for him.
Oh, yeah.
And it would help recoup our farm system because you would certainly get a first-round pick. You would get a top prospect.
Yep.
But again, Islanders trading Nelson right now, what kind of message does that send to guys in the room like Horvat, who just committed for 8 years here, Sorokin? It sends the wrong message to the group, and I don't think that Lou would do it. Lou's 81 years old. He's winning now. He's not trading Brock Nelson.
I think that if they didn't make the playoffs, off season, draft night, maybe. But I think he would then use that. I think he would get the assets, and then I think he would go and sign a big free agent. Because you're right, you can't sit here and do that. Yeah,
maybe if they missed the playoffs and he decided to, retool, yes. But as for right now, no. I mean that's off the table.
Yeah.
LD saying Isles could take Kakko for a bag of pucks. How about this? I'll trade you Wallstrom for Kakko. I mean,
perfect. Let's make the trade.
Yeah,
it's done.
Fire up the facts. Fire up the facts.
Central Registry. Go get him on the phone.
But honestly, even that Kakko. I mean, I would, if Drury ever offered that, I would make the move. But Dermo, I wouldn't jump up and down. I mean, Kakko to me I think he's a bust. I don't know. Maybe a change of scenery is good for him, but I wouldn't be all that excited.
Yeah.
Next comment we got here is, when all D-men are healthy, what happens? We have a bit too many.
Well, I would think Aho would be your odd man out. Bolduc would be traded because you can't put him down. He's going to get claimed probably.
Yeah.
Bortuzzo, I mean, I'm assuming Bortuzzo would stay on IR, like we talked about before. Like, I think he would find a way to just hide him. And then I'd probably make Mike Riley my sixth defenseman. I like Mike Riley. I think he's good for what he.
I like him a lot too. So I would say Pelech Bullock, Dobson, Mayfield, and then Riley, and I mean, I guess Aho, Bolduc, and Bortuzzo would be the extras or scratched, but that would be my.
You said Romanov, right? You said Romanov.
Oh, I forgot Romanov. Yeah, no. So then that's Pelech Bullock, Dobson, Romanov, and Riley, Mayfield. So
that's not a bad decor. I'm good with that.
It's not. And that's why I think Waz has been. I think he's going to be a great coach for this team. But the one thing I kind of questioned already was that he scratched Riley and played Bolduc and said they were going to kind of alternate. I don't see in any universe why they should alternate. Riley is better than Bolduc in every aspect of the game. I don't think
trying to trade him? Are they trying to trade him?
Maybe, but I mean, don't you think teams have seen enough of him to realize? I mean, listen, I'll pack his bags. I'll pack his bags.
100%. Yep.
Michael says, "What if instead of a?"
No, what were you going to say?
Michael's comment, what if instead of a pick for Nelson, they got younger and faster NHL players? Here's the problem. Any team trading for Brock Nelson is the contending team going for the cup. You're not having
Seattle. Seattle's not trading for him.
They're not gonna trade a young player off their roster that's good already for Nelson. They're gonna want to give up picks and prospects.
No.
So that's why I don't think that would work realistically. But what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, like, to jump on Romanov for a minute. He's been playing awesome since Pat Watt took over. Like, awesome.
His game has improved. So he's been one of the most improved Islanders.
Yeah. And you can notice it. Yeah.
He looks more confident with the puck too. I mean, he scored a couple of goals the last couple of games, and they were like snipes. Like he looked
You
good.
know what drives me nuts? That they had such a good thing with Barry, and I like Lane Lambert. I do. I think Lane was perfect as an assistant coach for them. He did the penalty kill and everything. But
Mhm.
I know they wanted to put somebody else in there because Barry was leaving, and
Yeah,
I just don't understand why they completely abandoned that entire philosophy. I mean, abandon it.
yeah. No,
Like,
dude, they're playing Doug Weight hockey. That's
yeah.
that's that's the style
And
they're
like to
playing.
me, that I know it's boring hockey, and like Biz and those guys
Yeah.
like make fun
Yep.
of the Islanders for it. But like, if you sat there and watched it, and they were beating Tampa like 3-2, it was fun
Yep.
games. And they had like a vice grip on games when they were leading, and now it's just like what are we doing?
Yeah, under Barry Trotz, when this team had a lead, they locked it down. Now
Yeah,
they
yeah,
blow leads like it's their job, and that's something that they have to fix. And Wah's not a miracle worker; he's not going to come in overnight and fix things. But one thing I've noticed though is the last two games they played, they heavily outshot Montreal and they heavily outshot
yes,
Vegas,
yes,
and they kind of turned in both those games. So they were giving up 40 plus shots pretty consistently. Those games I think they like around 27-28 both games. So I
yeah,
think the philosophy is going to start to kind of kick in here. But
yep,
but that's what needs to change. Varlamov and Sorokin are under siege every single night, and that's not
yeah,
a winning
yeah. No,
philosophy.
I get that, and I know I bust your chops about Sorokin a lot with Lambert.
Yeah.
What drives me nuts with Sorokin is um, he makes he follows the puck and he cheats, and he
Yes.
cheats a lot,
Yep. He
and he
does.
lets in some real soft ones, and that's why like I'll text you be like, this fucking guy, man,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are we doing? And
You know,
that's
he's
what drives me
been
nuts about him.
he's been certainly more susceptible to soft goals this season, and that's why I kind of before we went on air, we talked about that tweet I showed with the save percentages of some of the other so-called elite goalies, and as
Yep.
off of his game has been, he still leads the pack and leads the pack in terms of the save percentages over Soros, Shesterkin. So we could talk about Sorokin having an off year, which he is, no doubt about it, but he's at 909 save percentage. Shesterkin's at 899. So that just goes to show
That's a dramatic difference. Yeah.
yeah, he's not as bad as like some what the Rangers are dealing with Igor, and the Lightning are dealing with Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
You know, they and him too. I think it's all confidence. I think his confidence right now is at a low point. I think what he needs is a couple of games in a row where he's only allows like 1-2 goals.
Yeah.
Start to
To
feel
get
good
back on
about
the
himself
wagon.
again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then because one thing he's not like we talk about on our main show, Phil does especially. Sturkin seems like he's mentally weak. Like he visibly, like after he lets up goals, he smashes his goalie stick and he throws his hands up. Sorokin seems to be more headstrong, but I do wonder if that goal he let up that eliminated them last year against Carolina maybe still lingers
Oh,
lingers
the
a
one in
little
the
bit
corner.
because
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully he's able to shake that off, but um, I think he just needs to get the good confidence, good feeling about himself back. And listen, if he gets hot, he has the
Oh, I
capability of
agree.
carrying the Islanders.
Hundred
So
percent.
but
Hundred
that's
percent.
why it goes back. That's why it goes back to: do they invest in more defense? Do they trade for a Noah Hannafin? Um, so I don't know. I'm
What do you
torn
think
between
of
going from
What do you think of Chris Tanev? Maybe go more defensive than
yeah, no,
offensive
honestly,
defenseman.
that's another guy that has been linked to the Islanders, but then again, this is another guy that the Maple Leafs, the Devils are without Siegenthaler and Hamilton. They need defense.
Yeah.
So
They need a
they,
goalie. They need a goalie.
yeah, well that too. But there are going to be a lot of teams interested in Chris Tanev. Um, so I don't know. I think there could be end up being a bidding war for him, and if it gets to the point where I'm not offering a first for Chris Tanev. He's good, but I'm not
No.
offering a first round pick
Yeah,
for him.
no.
Noah Hannafin, sure. Tanev, no. So LZ saying You could watch our main show later today where it's league wide. Get more talk about the Rangers here, but they're a team right now that, again, I think Shesterkin is one of their biggest issues. He's not playing well at all. And they're bottom six. They're bottom six. They get nothing from their bottom six. It's guys like,
Well, that fourth
Bonino.
line. You see the stats
Yeah,
for that fourth line?
it's bad. It's bad.
It's like
That and that's
I think
and
it's
that's
like
why they
3 goals
waived.
between the 3 of them.
Yeah, that's why they waived Bonino.
Yeah.
Bonino was terrible. I mean, guys like Pitlick. I mean, Blake Wheeler has been terrible. So Els, I think the Rangers. I think they need to trade for a guy like, for instance, like Anthony Duclair on the Sharks. I know he's a former Ranger. He's on the trade market. I think he's a guy that could play in the third line, brings a lot of speed, some skill to the game. Or his teammate Barabanov on San Jose. I think he's another guy with more grit, but some skill. I think they need to look at guys like that. And then Sean Monahan. Heedle's out for the rest of the year, so trading for like Sean Monahan for the third line center role, I think he would be a good addition. So, and you got to remember, now that Heedle's out for the rest of the year, Dermo, that means his $4.3 million cap hit is available for them to spend. So
Yeah.
now they have the money to trade. Hell, I mean, technically speaking, they could trade for Elias Lindholm and not need Calgary to retain any salary because they have that money there. So
Yeah.
I think they need a third line center and they need some bottom six forwards. And then obviously the biggest thing, if Shesterkin can get out of his own head, that would help too. But
Yeah. I think if they don't do anything as far as like in the playoffs, I think they're gonna have to trade one of those guys because
yeah,
that core they got going on is not working. And I'll tell you what, I think who I would trade? I would just trade Panarin at that point.
yeah. I mean, he's the only guy that's
That's $11
playing
million
really
hit.
good.
Move that and go
Yeah,
get somebody else.
I mean, I'll tell you what though, if the Rangers get into the playoffs and Panarin has another playoffs like he did last year, where he was just disappeared,
Yep.
then maybe that's something they would look at. But one thing I will say about them is they are lucky that the Metro has been so bad, because on their recent streak of bad play, if teams were in the Metro were actually playing good, they would have been caught by the Flyers already. But the
Yeah.
Flyers have lost 5 in a row, so
Well, they went on a
they
really
never
big
moved.
run to start.
Yeah, but the Rangers
Yeah.
never dropped during the stretch because the Flyers suck. The Islanders have been sucking. The Penguins, Capitals,
Yep.
their Devils, they all suck. The Hurricanes are the only ones that are, playing somewhat good, and they're right up there with the Rangers. So the Rangers
Yep.
got lucky that the Metro right now is just a bag of mediocrity. Otherwise, they would have dropped to second or third. But
What do you? I'm
winning,
gonna jump off to another topic for a second. What do you think of this whole Pittsburgh Penguin situation? Like, you sit, like the decision making that goes on in Pittsburgh is mind boggling to me because Sidney Crosby is 37 years old. Malkin's like 37. Letang's 37. Like, what? Why would you trade for Eric Carlson? The
yeah, it
ship has
wasn't.
sailed. It's
Yeah,
over.
I think I think that was, what it was. I think when they kind of kicked Ron Hextall out on his ass after they missed the playoffs last year in that embarrassing loss to the Blackhawks, which essentially put the Islanders in the playoffs.
Yes,
Um,
that's right. Yeah.
I think ownership didn't accept the fact that maybe they should retool, and they wanted to bring in a guy like Dubas that could try to give this aging core more life. And you're right,
So let's
they
add
didn't.
another $10 million contract.
Yeah, they didn't need to do it. They did not need to do
No.
it. And you know, I'm glad you brought the Penguins up because when you talk about the Islanders chasing the Flyers for third, there are people that say, okay, yeah, they're only 4 points back, but what about the Penguins, Capitals, Devils, and yeah, they're all with the Islanders, but all those teams have major flaws as well. The Devils can't keep the puck out of their net. Their best
Yep.
defenseman in Dougie Hamilton is out until April.
And now,
Jonas
and then Hughes is out.
Yes, Hughes is out. Siegenthaler, who actually developed into a legitimate top 4D, he's out for a while. So,
Yep.
I mean, I'm not really worried about them. As you just said, the Penguins, the Penguins are a tire fire. I mean, they better, but they have a lot of issues. The Capitals are, I think they rank like around 29th in the league in scoring. They're only one of two teams that don't have a single guy on the team that have 30 points. So
Yeah.
the Capitals aren't going anywhere. So the Islanders,
No.
yes, they have these teams in the Metro that are kind of in the same boat as them, but they're in the best spot out of those 3 teams to catch the Flyers and go on a
Yep.
run here. So
Yep.
that's why they have to take advantage of it, and that's why it kind of circles back to Lou. He believes in this team, and him canning Lambert and bringing Waugh shows that he still believes in this team, and he's not punting. He's not punting on this season, and nor should he. The Flyers, I think, are in trouble. I mean, Tortorella, in my opinion, certainly a finalist for the Jack Adams. He's done a fabulous job. I'll give him that.
That
Everyone
guy gets so much out of
he gets
teams. He really
gets
does.
results. I mean, if you looked at kind of like the preseason, rankings of teams, the Flyers were pretty much ranked by everybody to be in the bottom of the league. So I give him a lot of credit for getting them where they are, but they might be coming down to earth here, 5 in a row, and now they're without Hart. So they're ripe for the taking, and that's why I think Lou needs to make a move here, bolster Wall's lineup, and make a run. But my opinion is that he's not going to wait to the deadline. I think he'll do it again sooner. How soon? I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I would imagine he's not going to wait until the deadline day to make the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, that might be Patty Waugh saying, hold off a minute. Let me see what I got here. Maybe I could fix something.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, too. He might want to see what Waugh can do here after a little bit of time. And
it just drives me nuts how quick it just drives me nuts how long it took him with the Lambert thing. Like, me and you would text after every game, and I'm like, how many lives this guy have? Like, what dirt does he have on Lou Lamoriello? Like,
when they went on that 0-4-3 stretch in November, the Islanders saved his job when they won, and they went on a tear, and that saved his job. But honestly, I would have fired him after that last loss they had before they finally broke that streak when they're out in Western Canada. But although you know what, when they lost 7-0 to Pittsburgh at home 2 days after Christmas,
I was at that game. Oh my God!
Oh, God bless you. That was the game where I was saying to myself, how if this guy has a job tomorrow, Lou should be culpable, because that was pitiful.
Let me tell you something about that game. So my buddy has tickets. He's 3 rows from the ice. So I text him, I'm like, hey, are you going tonight? And he's like, no. He's like, do you want to go? I'll give you my tickets. I'm like, yeah. So I call Lindsay, and I'm like, hey, Lindsay, do you want to go to the Islander game? She's like, yeah. So she hasn't been to UBS yet for the Islander game. So I take her, and then that happens. I kid you not, like within 5 minutes of the game being over, Gino texts me, and he's like, Lindsay's not allowed to come anymore to the games. So I was like, So I look at Lindsay, I'm like, God, Gino said you can't come anymore. You're the bad luck.
That was the game where there was a chance of fire Lambert, right?
Yes.
Where Cizikas after the game said that fans should stay home if they're going to chant that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, that game is what honestly probably cost him his job. I know it was after that loss against the Blackhawks that he got fired, but I think that was the game that Lou was like,
that team just didn't respond to him. They just didn't respond to him.
No, they didn't. And what's frustrating is, on January 5th, they were tied for second in the Metro, and then since that point, they've just played bad, inconsistent hockey.
Yeah,
and sometimes you always say the coach takes the fall, but in this case, it was right. He was. I think he was, for all intents and purposes, was the problem here.
Yeah. Yep.
So Marc, Marc.
See, at least with Barry would change the lines up a little. He just goes with the same lines. It's like, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Barry would throw. I remember the first couple years, Barry would throw like Tommy Kuhnhackl up on the top line just to throw or Leo. He'd put Leo up there, and people would laugh, and I'd be like, I love Leo up there because he had some grit. Like, these guys don't go into the corners. Like, throw Leo up there. Like.
And what for me was kind of like a brain dead move was when Cizikas got hurt. he then the next game he took Barzell away from Horvat, and I get it why he did it in the sense they were down a center, but why at that time they're on fire? Why are you splitting up Horvat and Barzell when they're playing the best hockey
Yeah.
that they've played? Like
Yeah.
you should have put Cizikas on IR sooner and recalled McLean because that's what he ended up doing 2 games later.
Yep.
They should have done that
I
right
like McLean.
right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So do I. That
Yeah.
move should have been done right away. There was no reason for them to split up.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Yeah, you know what? There's some things with Lou that drives me nuts. You know, it really does. I get it, you know, but then it's like there's, you know, like you get urgency and then there's nothing for 3 months, and then he's like, all
Yeah.
right, let's like, can we just stay in the game the whole time? You know.
Yeah.
But I do think, listen, the Patty Watt thing's good, and I think obviously the guys are going to respond to it because it's Patrick Waugh. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like when we got the text that like he's the coach, we're like, all right, let me check this account and make sure this isn't like a burner
it's
account.
real.
And then I'm like, oh my God, there's 800,000 followers. This is real. Like, oh my God. You know,
Well,
so you have that aspect, you know, so hopefully that gives them what they, and listen, like you said, he's not just going to come in here and listen, it took Barry until the middle of, if I'm not mistaken, it took him to the middle of December the first year for them to really start to like click. And then they went on that tear for the rest of the first season.
Yeah, it takes time.
It takes time, you know, like I get that. Like what's happening in Edmonton's a little different. You know, they're like, oh, they're on a 15-game winning streak. They got a new coach. They're on a 15-game winning streak because they got Draisaitl and they got McDavid. Like,
yeah, McDavid, he went into God mode. Yeah.
Yeah, like come on.
Yeah.
You know, like what are we doing here? We don't have that. So you're like, see what you're working with. You know.
Although it would be nice if this team can rattle off like 5 in a row. If they were able to rattle off 5 in a row, that would be huge for the standings. And honestly, that's something that you need to do.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about the Flyers before, being out Carter Hart, I know it states saying here, charged, yes, but this guy, these 5 players, I don't see them playing in the NHL, even though they haven't been convicted. They're not going to play with that hanging over their head. There's no way that any of them play while they have this. Yes, because I know what he's implying, that they're not convicted and you should give them the benefit of the doubt. But no, they're not. They're not going to play for their teams when this is still ongoing because no, it's just not happening. I know, and Dermo, your line of work, I know, innocent until proven guilty here, but chances are these guys are culpable to some extent, so they're not playing. I'd be surprised. I would be surprised if any of them come back to their team this season. I don't see.
Yeah, they're done. They're done for the season. I think so. Yeah. There's just too much. There's just too much heat with that right now. These teams aren't going to get involved in that.
No. So yes, I get what you're saying. They haven't been convicted. They've only been charged, but still, I don't see the Flyers getting Carter Hart back, and that's honestly that's big for the Islanders because that's their number one goalie, and that's a big problem for the Flyers. So the the Flyers continuing to take a tailspin in the division is the best case for the Islanders right now because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the wild card spots are going to be hard. Detroit's playing well. Obviously Tampa Bay got hot. Toronto is playing a little better. So sure, they could still get a wild card spot, but I don't know. I think the better path is grabbing that third spot in the division.
They got to get some wins before they worry about anything. That's what it comes down to. So we could talk about teams going cold, but they gotta. They put themselves in this position, so now they got to dig themselves out.
Like Detroit is back in action tonight. So if they win, that would put them 7 points ahead of the Islanders. So that's why.
With the same games at hand?
No, the Islanders would have a game in hand. They both played 49 games.
So 5 points. Yeah. So 5 points.
If Detroit wins, if Detroit wins, Toronto would fall to the second wild card. And the Islanders would be 6 points behind Toronto, which they play though. They play them right off the bat after the All-Star break. So that's why the point is 4 points behind Philly. That's the better option. And the Islanders have a game in hand too on Philly. They have one game in hand on Philly, 4 points back. So, like I said, the time starts now for this team, just like last year, right? They were playing poorly. They traded for Horvat before the All-Star break. and then they went on a roll, got in the playoffs. So that's what needs to happen here.
Yep.
But we got a couple of minutes left, so I guess I'll kind of put you on the spot. What's your prediction in terms of player wise? Who do you think is a New York Islander before the trade deadline?
I think with the prospect pool that we have, I would say it's probably going to be like Jordan Eberle.
I could see a reunion with Eberle.
Yeah, just because
Kraken, I
Nelson,
think.
Eberle, Palmieri, like you can move Envol, like we were talking about, move Envol down to the third line,
Yeah.
and just get some secondary scoring. I
So
don't know if he's got enough in him to make another big trade. There's just, like I said,
the
I like Lindholm, but
Kraken.
I don't want to give up all this stuff, and then he's a 50, maybe 60-point guy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I would do Jordan Eberle,
Kraken.
probably.
So the Kraken are 2 points behind St. Louis for the last wild card, and LA. They're 2 points behind LA and St. Louis for the last 2 wild card spots. He's going to be a free agent, and he's older. But I don't know. I think they might keep Eberle. I don't know if they remain in
Yeah.
that spot. Yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, listen, they could trade him anyway because they feel he's old and they're not going to re-sign him and maybe move him regardless. But my guess is that they might keep him if they stay in the race.
Yeah. I just think, I think LA will get hot,
They've been playing really bad hockey, LA.
Yeah,
That
you
team
expect them
fell
to play
off.
bad for another 30 games? I don't think so.
No, I mean, I would think they'll turn it around. But if I had to pick, I would say I just have a feeling about Frank Vetrano.
Yeah.
He signed for another year, which I think Lou likes. He only makes like $3.5 million, so it's not that hard to manipulate in terms of
He's in the All-Star
the
game,
cap.
right?
Yeah, he's going to be in the All-Star game. And I think he's another guy that he's got a great shot. So I think he could be a great trigger man with playing with Nelson and Palmieri.
Yeah.
Or I mean, honestly, you could even put him on the third line and maybe that sparks Pajot and Holmstrom. But I think overall though he adds
Yeah.
more scoring to the Islander lineup. And again, Lou doesn't like to trade first necessarily. Obviously, if he does, he wants to make sure the players he sees the value in Vetrano because he's here for another year. So that would be my
trading?
guess.
What are you trading?
Well, because of his good cap hit and he's signed, I would say our first, and then probably a prospect, maybe a first
Wallstrom.
and Wallstrom first, and I mean because Anaheim's still rebuilding, right? I mean I don't really first and Dufour. I mean I would say something somewhere along the lines of that.
Yeah.
That's my guess. Who knows? But then again, Dermo, who really knows what Lou's thinking, right? I mean, this guy doesn't tip his
Nobody.
hand.
Lou doesn't even
No,
know.
no, he doesn't. I remember last year before they traded for Horvat, there was really
They wanted
no
JT
one.
Miller for like 6 months.
Yeah, there was no one really linking Horvat to the Islanders, and then
Yeah.
the day of the trade, all of a sudden, it's like Elliot Friedman mentioned that the Islanders were interested in Horvat, and 2 hours later, the move happened. So, but
Yeah,
prior
Lou's
to
on the
that,
phone going, wait. I got to make the deal. Make the deal.
yeah. Well, we'll see. But again, it starts with winning hockey games and going from there. But this was a great first show. We enjoyed doing it. We're gonna try to do it consistently on Wednesdays to keep it kind of uniform for you guys, all your viewers. But yeah, it was a great first show. I'm looking forward to again next week. And listen, when we do it next week, at least there'll be hockey to talk about, right? Because the Islanders play on Monday, so we'll be able to talk about the game against the Maple Leafs and what's coming up.
And we'll talk about the Islanders' new player that they're getting in the meantime.
Yeah, right. Yeah, how funny would that be if he made a move again right before the All-Star game? That would be good. That would be funny. But thanks a lot, guys.
The first half an hour would be for Lindholm, and then we'll talk about the rest of
Yeah.
the
Could you imagine how pissed like Ranger fans would be, and if the Islanders traded for Elias Lindholm, they would just be so angry. But yeah, no, Dermo was great. We'll do it again
Thanks,
next
guys.
Wednesday. And thanks, guys, for watching. Oh, and make sure to tune into our main show on the network later today, as always, 5:30 with Phil and Marc as we talk, around the league. So see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.